so different for those top end guys to produce night in and night out. How do you deal with that kind of pressure? Do you see a little bit of shades of a potential dynasty of the modern era in this Avalanche team?
Do you think that when it's all said and done, Makar could be in the class of all-time defensemen as a Paul Coffey?
I think any record you have in the NHL is a privilege because there's so many great teams and so many great players.
All right, the DNVR Avalanche Podcast has a very special guest. Now we are joined by the great one himself, Wayne Gretzky. First of all, Wayne, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate it a ton.
My pleasure.
Obviously, we're an Avs podcast. You take a look at this Avs team. I don't want to go so far as to say they were anywhere near those unbelievable Oilers teams you played for, but do you see a little bit of shades of a potential dynasty of the modern era in this Avalanche team?
Yeah, no question about it. They are such an elite team. They're winning. More importantly, they're a fun team to watch. They bring the fans out of their seats each and every night. As a team, they play unselfishly, and as individuals, you look at some of their guys, they're just truly Hall of Famers already, and they're got a lot more years left in their careers, and they've already won one championship. And I think that, listen, the salary cap era is hard. And, Kadri was such an important part of that team 2 years ago when they won. And I don't know if they could ever fill that hole last year. And it seems like this year, if they give up a good young defenseman, but they got a guy now that's fitting in nicely. Looks like they have a little bit more depth. And the big Russian, I don't think played last year in the playoffs. He's playing phenomenal right now. So yeah. I think their team is as good this year as they've ever been, and they're playing with a great deal of confidence. I mean, they almost came back again last night, which would have been incredible. 2 comeback road wins. It's pretty hard to do in this day and age. But like you said, they're a fun team to watch, and more importantly, they're unselfish and they play hard. I'm always amazed because it looks like MacKinnon and Makar don't get tired. It looks like they could run a marathon after playing 28 minutes a night. If you look at them on the bench, they're really not huffing and puffing. I don't know how they do it. It's pretty interesting to watch because they're specimens, that's for sure.
Speaking of Cale Makar, you played with a pretty good one in Paul Coffey in your day. Yeah. When you see Cale Makar chasing down some of these early career accolades and all the Norris Trophy nominations, do you think that when it's all said and done, Makar could be in the kind of class of all-time defensemen as a Paul Coffey?
No question. You guys are around him more than I am, and you guys get to watch him live more than I do. But he's got all the intangibles. He's big, he's fast, he's tough. He sees the ice. He's great defensively. He's hard to play against. Plays unselfish. There's no question. And that's the great thing about sports, right? We sit around and we want to compare who's better, who's more important, all those kind of things. Who's the best team? But Makar's going to write his own history. He's going to go down as one of the great defensemen who ever played our game. There's absolutely no question in my mind that that's going to happen by the time his career is over.
I got to ask, I mean, obviously they announced it last week with the Hart nominations, and right. You've won it 9 times, which is, okay, I guess. I mean, it's okay. You don't like to brag, but it's something unbelievable. But here in the market, Nate MacKinnon, he's never won it, been nominated a couple times. Everybody in this market believes that this is his year. As we all know, Matthews, McDavid, Kucherov, everybody's been so good, but is there some, and I'm not asking you who you're picking, I'm saying, like, what an honor it was for you to win. I know you're all about winning Stanley Cups, but what's the difference about an individual honor like the Hart Trophy?
Well, listen, the greatest trophy is the Stanley Cup, and then after you go from there, if you're a rookie, winning Rookie of the Year means the world to a young guy. But I think the Hart Trophy is the creme de la creme as far as individual awards go. And look, you said it best. People in Colorado, they believe Nate MacKinnon deserves it, and they're right to say that. If you go into Edmonton, the people in Edmonton are going to say, hey, we wouldn't be the same team without Connor McDavid. And they're allowed to say that. And now, if you go in Florida here in Tampa Bay, all you hear about is Kucherov and the 100 assists he had and how great of a player, and he was in 50% of the scoring of their entire team. So I don't know. It's going to come down to how many people voted for Matthews, because he seems to be fourth on that list. And I think if Matthews gets a lot of votes, he's going to take some votes away from Kucherov. Does that help MacKinnon or McDavid? I don't know. This is a coin toss. I wouldn't want to sit here and say who's going to win it, but all three guys who are nominated definitely deserve it. They've had great years, great players. And look, Austin Matthews had as good a year as anybody's had in the last 15 or 20 years, and he didn't even get into the top three. So that's how good those top three guys played all season long. So good for them, well deserved.
Do you, when you look back on your career, do you have a greater appreciation for winning the MVPs now that you've had some time to look back and reflect on it versus in the moment when you're focused more on the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, you kind of just focused on the Stanley Cup, and as Eric will tell you, it's no fun losing. It's no fun not being on a team that's competitive each and every year, and that's what it's really all about. If you can be good enough to play with good players, you're going to get those nominations. And as I said, I played with great players. You don't do it as an individual in this sport. And Nate MacKinnon will tell you that about his team, and Connor will tell you that about the Oilers. You got to have good players around you to get those kind of nominations, because one guy can't do it by himself. It's just too hard of a game. There's too many good players. And as you guys know, the game gets better every 10 years. It's better today than it was in 2000. It was better in 2000 than it was in 1980. And 20 years from now, they're going to go, wow, look how much bigger we are today. Look how much faster we are than the guys who played in 2024. That's what's going to happen.
Not just a great player, but you're a great leader everywhere you went. The Avs situation, Gabe Landeskog, their captain, obviously has not been on the ice for a couple of years. How do you see that leadership core of MacKinnon and Makar kind of stepping up in a situation like that vocally?
Yeah, it's really amazing. Landeskog is one of the best players in the game as far as he's important to his team. He's an unselfish guy. He's their captain. Are they as good a team without him? Probably not. He was so important to their team. And consequently, losing him last year and Kadri, two guys that were part of winning the Stanley Cup, those guys are hard to replace. So you need guys like MacKinnon and Makar to step up. And, as you guys, you're around those kids. They're good kids. They work hard. They're unselfish. They love to play. They love being in Colorado. I will tell you, though, I had dinner with Nathan around Christmas time in St. Louis when the Avs were in town to play the Blues. And I don't know if I've seen a hockey player eat as much as he did that night, the night before a game. Maybe that's why he doesn't get tired. He's got all those calories and getting ready so he can skate for 28 minutes. But you know what? As you guys know, they're good kids, and they deserve all the accolades they're getting. And listen, they've been fun to watch this year in the playoffs. All the playoff games have been fun to watch, but they're especially unique to watch because you don't know if they're going to win 7-6 or lose 7-6. So you're going to be entertained the whole game. That's the good thing about watching the Avs.
Oh, go ahead.
No, how about it?
No, I just when I go back to the Avalanche, we were so lucky here. We call it Avalanche 1.0. We're talking about my dad's old years with Joe and Peter and Patrick, and so fortunate here in town to have all those superstars. And then we call this Avalanche 2.0 right now, and we're so lucky. And I just want you to touch a little bit on the pressure that I always compare myself, obviously being a bottom of the lineup guy. And I always tell those guys and the people on the pod, like, it's so different for those top end guys to produce night in and night out. And the ones that do are the greatest ones. And you remember them, like we're talking about Joe and Peter and yourself, obviously, but talking about Avalanche wise. So how do you deal with that kind of pressure night in and night out? And I think it's a fuel, but I'm just asking you.
Yeah. Well, listen, a couple of things. Let me say this first. Your dad changed the face and the culture of the franchise when he traded and got Patrick Waugh. And that just seemed to stabilize the entire group because they were more of an offensive-minded team with Joe and Peter. But I think it comes from a love and a passion of the game. I just think that if you love to play each and every night, you want to become better every single game and every night you play. I don't think you look in the mirror and worry about the pressure of it or, I got to get 2 goals tonight. I just think the love of the game, and you guys were around Joe and Peter, they just love to play. They get on the ice They played hard, they practiced hard, they prepared hard. Consequently, you become champions. And I think that's as simple as that. A great announcer of ours in Canada, Bob Cole, just passed away a couple of weeks ago. And somebody asked me what made him so special. And I said, listen, there's a lot of great play-by-play announcers, a lot of great color commentators. But Bob Cole had a passion and a love for what he did. And he brought it to work every single day till he was about 83 when he retired. So you see that with good players. You see that with Nate. You see that with Makar. You see that with McDavid and Draisaitl. They just love to compete. They just play hard every night. And I don't think they look at it and say, you know what, I got so much pressure on me. I got to play well tonight. I just think they go, you know what, this is where I want to be, and I'm going to enjoy this, and I'm going to play the best I can play tonight.
You own a ridiculous amount of NHL records. Obviously, around the league, when anyone gets close, it's a big deal. Everyone starts tracking it, whether the bigger ones like an Ovechkin goal total, obviously everyone knows about. But do you pay attention to some of the smaller ones? Like Nathan MacKinnon had that home point streak for 37, 38 games this year, getting pretty close to you. Did those things get you excited, or do you just not think about the records all that much?
Well, listen, I think any record you have in the NHL is a privilege because there's so many great teams and so many great players. And has the game changed over 50 years? Of course it has. It's a different style game today. I wasn't even aware that I had 40 games in a row with a point at home until Nate got to about 30, 31 and people started talking about it. And then just matter of factly, I asked somebody, I said, well, what year did I do that in Edmonton? They said, no, you did it in LA. I didn't even know I did it in LA.
That's right. That's right. I was shocked too.
I was, that kind of surprised me, but I actually texted him around game 33, 34, and I said, listen, I'm wishing you all the best of luck to break the record. And maybe I sent some bad mojo because I think it was 2 games later, he didn't get a point, but I was pulling for him. It's great for the game. And that was the one record I could say, you know what, maybe 2 of us could share the record because he gets to play 41 home games. I only had 40.
Go ahead. Yeah. You good?
All you, Doug.
Well, you listen, it was a privilege to have you here. And I just want to, I tell all the time, it was a privilege for me to play with you for parts of 3 seasons. And one of the coolest, you're talking about passion, one of the coolest moments in my career. I didn't win that Stanley Cup. I got my last name on it twice, but just with the wrong first name, which is fine. It stays in the family. But one of the coolest moments for me was your last game, right? And not only the last game, but it was the last week. And I remember the last practice, and I got a nice picture there from, I think that was our last practice there. And we were doing Mucks had us doing down and backs for your last practice. And it was just like, oh my God.
I knew he was going to do that too.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? And for me, I just tell people all the time, I was fortunate enough to play in this league. And obviously, people always ask you hey, who was some of your, the best players you ever played with? Sure. I mean, you're at the top of the list for me. I'm not biased. It's just the records speak for themselves. But for me, I always tell people, and again, I'm going to give you flowers here, and I mean it. For me, Wayne was the best teammate I've ever played with. And people are like, no, I asked you who was the best player. And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm giving you the best teammate I've ever played with. You made everybody feel so good, whether you're a superstar on the team or, a backup goalie. And for me, I take that with me. I try to bring that with me every day in my everyday life. And I'll tell you one thing, it was an honor and a privilege to be with you. And boy, oh boy, we, I look back and I was fortunate. So I just want to say thank you for being the best teammate ever to play with me. Not the best player, the best teammate. So.
Well, thanks for the kind words. And it was a pleasure to be on with you guys today. And listen, I love watching hockey, and there's not a team that's more fun to watch. Maybe the Oilers and the Avs. They're fun to watch because they go, and I love that kind of hockey. So I'm wishing you guys all the best of luck, and thanks for letting me be on the show.
Thank you again so much. Yeah,
appreciate the time.
We all silly like the mayor.